Welcome to Scone Baking and Beyond. Hi, I'm Kathy and I enjoy making scones, muffins, cookies, and all sorts of delicious baked goodies. One tradition during Mardi Gras is the king cake. Well, I've created my own twist, which I call king cake scones. Each scone has all three colors of Mardi Gras inside with a candy pecan filling and a Bourbon-Vanilla Icing. So let's bake. The first thing I want to do is grate 8 tablespoons of butter. Grating my butter will give it just the right size when I mix it into the dry ingredients. Okay, now that our butter is totally grated, I want to keep this butter as cold as possible because before it melts, it's going to create steam and it's going to create these nice, wonderful layers in your scone. So I'm going to get this butter in the freezer. The first thing we do is melt 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Once that's melted, we add 1/2 cup of chopped pecans. We're going to cook these on medium-high heat for about 3 minutes. Our chopped pecans have been cooking for about 3 minutes, so now it's time to add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. We're going to let this cook for about 1 minute. Okay, it's been about a minute, so it's time to get this off the heat. And we're going to pour all of this onto a parchment-lined plate and let this cool. And we're just going to set this aside until we're ready to put it into the scone. Well, while the butter is in the freezer and we just finished our candied pecans, it's time to put our dry ingredients together. The first thing I put in here is 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour. Then 1/2 cup of whole wheat pastry flour. I like adding whole wheat pastry flour to my baked goods. It gives it a nice nutty flavor, it's nutritional, and also I use pastry flour because it's lighter than regular whole wheat flour. And in that I'm going to add 1/3 cup of granulated sugar. Then we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to get that combined. And now we're going to take that butter that's in the freezer, we're going to take it out of the freezer and add it to our dry ingredients. There we go. I made it. The reason why the butter was in the freezer is because I handled it while I was grating it. And I want to keep this butter as cold as possible because before it melts, it's going to create a little steam. And that steam is going to give you some nice little pockets and create a nice flaky scone. So I'm just going to mix this up. And because I grated it, I don't have to cut it in now. I don't have to really work it. All I need to do is make sure that this butter is coated with flour and there aren't any clumps. There we go. It's all ready. Now it's time to add our wet ingredients. To that, we're going to add 1 cup of buttermilk. And get that mixed together. This will be a little bit loose when you put it together, and sometimes you will have some dry flour at the bottom. That's okay. Just leave it there. It didn't quite make it. So we're going to take this out. Put it on our floured board here. Now, we leave the scone making world a little bit and we're going to go into the croissant making world. And what we're going to do is we're going to roll this out into a 12-inch square. Put some flour on top. That nice on there. That'll be fine. So we're going to roll this out to a nice 12-inch square. Let's square that up and see how we're doing. It doesn't have to be perfectly 12 inches by 12 inches. because we're going to do this again. There is 12 inches. And there is 12 inches. So what we're going to do now is we're going to fold this in thirds and fold it in thirds the other direction. Now we're going to fold 1/3 there and 1/3 there. And then because we've handled the dough, and again, we want to keep this dough as cold as possible. So we're going to put this dough on our floured plate here, and we're going to put this in the freezer for about 5 minutes. Okay, our dough's been in the freezer for 5 minutes. It's time to bring it out. We're going to put it on our floured board here. And we're going to roll this out into another 12-inch square. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. Let's just kind of square this up a little bit. There we go. Get that squared up. Now let's check. Yep, we have 12 inches by 12 inches. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cover this dough with 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Now, remember, this is a king cake scone, so we need those colors from Mardi Gras. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover, I'm dividing this into thirds. So I'm going to have about 4 inches, and I have this wonderful scraper here that gives me measurements. So there's about 4 inches there. And that's kind of my guideline as to where to put this wax paper. So I'm going to cover up this third, and I'm going to cover up this third. And now what I'm going to do is start with, this is sanding sugar, and it comes in wonderful colors, so I'm going to start with green. And green in Mardi Gras represents faith. And cover up that dough. This is how we're going to get all the colors in each scone. So then I'm going to take my wax paper, I'm just going to flip it over and cover up the green. And now we're going to put in gold. This is actually yellow sanding sugar, but it represents gold, and gold represents power. There's the yellow. And now the last color, we're going to cover this up with this last piece of wax paper. And so the next color we're going to put on is purple, and purple represents justice. So we're going to cover our dough with the purple. There we go. Oh, that looks so good. So now we're going to take off our wax paper. Oops. Got a little bit of purple and the yellow now. That's okay. It's all going to get blended later. So now you have all 3 colors of Mardi Gras. And so remember the candy pecans we made earlier? Well, they've been sitting on this parchment paper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the parchment paper and I'm going to scrunch this up, break up all the wonderful candy pecans. And we're going to take those pecans and we're going to sprinkle them all over our dough, because we want candy pecans in our scones. They're a wonderful addition to these scones. And a lot of areas do add nuts to their king cake. So we'll add nuts to ours. There we go. And just try to get them all over the place. There we go. And if they try to escape, bring them back and put them back on here. There we go. And I just kind of lightly tap them in. Okay, now we're going to roll this like we would a cinnamon roll. We're going to roll this up. And we want to roll it tight, but this is not a yeast dough. This dough will break, so you got to be careful when you're trying to roll it up tight. But you do want to try and roll it up tight, and sometimes my dough will stick to the board, so the scraper comes in handy at this point. There we go. Now I'm going to keep these rolled up like this for my scones. So now they're ready to cut. So now I'm going to cut them in 12 1-inch pieces. So I find the middle and I start with that. And then I find the middle again. What's nice about my scraper, it does have inches measurements on it, so I know how far 1 inch is. So now I'm going to cut each one of these. There we go, they're all cut now. It's time to put them on our baking sheet. Get out my baking sheet, move all this off to the side. There we go. Now I always line my baking sheet with parchment paper. So I'm going to take each one of these, and the end pieces I always put cut side up. And you see this? You can see the purple, the yellow, and the green. So each scone is going to have all three colors in it. And the last one, again, the end piece, I always put cut side up on it. There we go. Let's move all this off to the side. Clean it off our board here. There. Don't those look good? So now, before we bake them, we're going to add our, I have 1 beaten egg, and we're going to give it a little egg wash. And this will help them get nice and golden brown. And now for the last one. There we go. Okay, we're going to put these in the oven. I have the oven preheated at 400 degrees, and we're going to cook these for about 16 to 18 minutes. It's been 16 minutes, and look at how good those look. They're nice and golden brown. You can see the purple, the yellow, and the green. But first things, we have to get these scones off of our baking sheet. So we just slide scones and parchment paper together off the baking sheet. And the reason why is that we want these scones to cool, but we don't want the bottoms of them to cook any more than they already have by sitting on that hot baking sheet. So we want to get them right off the baking sheet. So we're going to let these cool until completely cooled, and then we're going to ice them. Okay, our scones are cooled, so now it's time to ice them. So we start with 1 tablespoon of room temperature butter, 1 tablespoon of bourbon, because these are bourbon icing, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, because they are bourbon vanilla icing. I'm going to give this a little bit of a whisk, just kind of blend it together a little bit. So now we're going to add 1 cup of powdered sugar, just a little at a time, so we don't make too much of a mess when we whisk it together. Okay, our icing is whisked together, nice and smooth. It's a nice consistency. So we're going to put this in our Ziploc baggie. This is what you can use. Either you can use a piping bag, or you can just use a Ziploc baggie. This is just a snack size Ziploc baggie. I cut a little, about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch hole in the corner. And now we're going to put our icing in the bag. And when I do my bag, I kind of fold back the top. Otherwise, I'll make a real mess. There we go, in there. There, and now we're gonna just use this Ziploc baggie like a piping bag, and there's my little corner that I cut out. So we're gonna drizzle this on. There we go. Oh, those look so good. And now I have 2 tablespoons of toasted chopped pecans, and I'm gonna sprinkle those on top. I think I need a little bit more there. There we go. I think that's good. There we go. Okay, don't those look good? We have our scone here. We have the green, the yellow, and the purple sanding sugar. We have candied pecans inside. We have a bourbon vanilla icing on the outside with chopped toasted pecans drizzled on top. So now we're going to take a bite and see how these are. See See that purple? It's going to be good. You can taste the candied pecans. And the bourbon icing isn't too strong in bourbon, so it tastes very good. So thank you very much for watching. For the complete recipe, please go to sconebaking.com. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe for future videos. Thank you for watching. This is good.